right, everyone get ready, because today we're going deep on FedGeoDay 2024.
It's FedGeoDay, not FedGeoDay.
Oh, okay, my bad. FedGeoDay 2024, so for anyone who might not know what that is.
Well, it's an event that's all about the open geospatial ecosystems that are used across the entire U.S. federal government.
Okay, so I guess that means it's not just another boring tech conference.
Yeah, FedGeoDay is actually all about showing how all of these open source tools can be used to do good.
More efficient government.
More transparent, too.
Yeah.
It all went down on April 30th, 2024, by the way.
In Washington, D.C., I assume.
You got it, at the Department of the Interior.
Not quite Silicon Valley, but I guess that makes sense.
What's really interesting is that this event brings together a really diverse group of people. You've got federal program managers, you've got tech leaders, people from industry, NGOs.
Wow, quite the mix.
Yeah, and they're all interested in how powerful open geospatial data is.
So open source tech, why is that so important for the government?
It might seem like open source is more for, like, startups, but it's actually becoming more and more important for government for a few reasons.
Okay, like what?
Well, for one, open source means more transparency.
Transparency, okay.
Yeah. Imagine if you could see the data behind every decision the government made that affected your life.
I see, so no more black boxes.
Exactly.
But is there any risk to making everything open? What about keeping things secure?
You're right. To think about security, it's a valid concern.
Yeah,
and it was definitely a big topic at FedGeoDay.
Okay.
But actually, a lot of people who are really into open source actually think that making code public actually makes it more secure.
More secure.
Yeah, because more people are looking at the code, checking for problems.
It's like crowdsourcing security.
Yeah, pretty much.
The more the merrier.
And besides security, open source makes it way easier for people to work together.
You mean collaboration?
Exactly, collaboration.
Okay.
And that leads to more innovation. Agencies can actually work together and share code, building on each other's successes.
That makes sense.
And you know what else is great about open source? It can save taxpayers money because it's often way cheaper than proprietary software.
Oh, okay, so there are cost savings.
Exactly.
All right, you've convinced me. It sounds like open source can be a really powerful tool for the government.
It definitely can be.
So I'm curious, which government agencies were actually at FedGeoDay?
Oh, we had some big names there. The Census Bureau was there, of course.
The Census Bureau.
Yeah, they've been big supporters of open source. They even made a policy to use open source software first whenever they can.
Open source first. Wow, that sounds like a huge change for them.
It is.
What made them do that?
Well, they wanted to be more transparent about their data, especially after all the new privacy stuff that went into the 2020 census.
Makes sense. People want to know what's happening with their data.
Exactly. And of course, you had all the other agencies that work with geospatial data all the time, like NOAA and USGS.
NOAA for weather and oceans. USGS for geology, right?
That's right. And then there was NASA with all their satellite imagery.
Oh, yeah, NASA, of course.
And we can't forget the State Department's Office of the Geographer and Global Issues.
They're the ones who try to figure out what's going on in the world, right?
Pretty much. They're all about geography and politics.
So we had the Census Bureau, NOAA, USGS, NASA, the State Department.
And a whole bunch more. DOD, FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers.
Wow.
USAID, and even the Forest Service.
Wait, the Forest Service?
Yeah. You might not think of them as being super techy, but they use a ton of geospatial data.
For what?
To track wildfires, monitor how healthy the forests are, even to plan hiking trails.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we had a room full of experts from all these different agencies.
All excited about open geospatial data.
That's right.
What were some of the hot topics that they were all talking about?
One of the big things everyone was talking about was how important open data is for making good decisions.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about actually using it to make things better.
Exactly. And when you use open data, everyone can see why you made those decisions, which makes people trust you more.
Right. Especially for the government.
Yeah, but there were also a lot of interesting talks about the challenges of actually using open source solutions in the government.
Challenges? Like what?
Well, one of the hardest things is just getting those big old government agencies to change how they do things.
Bureaucracy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard stories about government agencies still using, like, floppy disks.
It can be tough to get them to try new things, especially something as different as open source.
So it takes time and effort.
Yeah, and then there's the whole security issue.
Oh, yeah, security.
We talked about it before, but you really have to make sure that these open source systems are super secure.
Especially since it's government data.
Right, you don't want hackers getting their hands on that stuff.
Definitely not.
And then there's also the whole human side of things.
What do you mean?
Well, some people in the government just don't like change.
They like doing things the old way.
Yeah, exactly. And they might not want to use these new technologies.
Even if those technologies could make their jobs easier.
Sometimes. So it's not just about the tech. It's about getting everyone to buy into this idea of being open and transparent.
It's a cultural shift.
It is.
So are the benefits of open source worth all that trouble?
People who really believe in open source say yes.
Okay.
They say the benefits are way more than the challenges.
Like what?
Well, open source software is usually way cheaper than the proprietary stuff.
So it saves money.
Exactly. And like we were talking about before, open source makes everything more transparent.
So people trust the government more.
Exactly. And don't forget about how much easier it is for everyone to work together when they're using open source software.
Oh yeah, collaboration and innovation.
Right. One of the speakers even compared the U.S. government's investment in OpenStreetMap to how much they need to invest in open source software.
OpenStreetMap.
Yeah. It's become this super useful tool for mapping and navigation.
I use it all the time.
And this speaker was saying that open source software could be just as important for the government.
I see. So open source is really changing how the government works.
It really is.
So what other trends were people talking about at FedGeoDay? What else is everyone excited about?
Cloud-based geospatial data was another big topic.
The cloud. It seems like everything is moving to the cloud these days.
It's totally changing how we deal with this kind of data. It's like having a huge library of geospatial information that everyone can access from anywhere in the world.
So no more emailing those giant files back and forth.
Exactly.
That sounds way more efficient.
And it lets people work together in real time.
Okay, this is starting to sound pretty futuristic.
It is.
Any real-world examples of how this is being used?
One example is a project called Mapster.
Mapster, what's that?
It's this really cool collaboration with the NGA where they're using 3D models that were created from commercial satellite imagery.
From satellites?
Yep. All this data was just sitting there.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to the cloud, everyone can use it.
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, the cloud is all about accessibility and collaboration.
But let's be real. The thing everyone wants to talk about is AI.
You know it. And AI was a big topic at FedGeoDay.
So how is AI being used with geospatial data?
Imagine being able to analyze mountains of data in like a second.
That's AI for you.
It can automate tasks, find patterns, make connections that humans might miss.
So instead of analysts looking at spreadsheets for hours, AI can do it.
Exactly. And then the analysts can focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Smart.
But you know, there was this one panelist who said something really interesting about AI.
What was that?
They said it's AI, not goo AI.
Goo AI. What does that even mean?
Well, they were saying that we can't just blindly trust AI.
Okay.
We have to remember that AI is just a tool, and it depends on the data it's using.
I see.
And that data could have biases or errors.
So even though it's powerful, it's not perfect.
Exactly. It's up to humans to interpret the results and make the final decisions.
So AI can't replace humans.
Not yet. It's more about humans and AI working together.
AI is a partner.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing how AI is touching everything we do now.
It's true. But getting back to that quote about the government investing in OpenStreetMap.
The one about how open source software needs the same kind of investment.
Right. Well, one of the panels at FedGeoDay really dove into that, talking about partnerships and how important they are for building a strong, open geospatial ecosystem.
Partnerships, okay.
So it's not just about government agencies doing their own thing.
It's about working with private companies and nonprofits.
Exactly. Even individual citizens can be part of it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Were there any examples of these partnerships at FedGeoDay?
Oh, yeah, tons. We already talked about Mapster.
The NGA and those 3D models from satellite imagery?
Yep. But there's also this program that the Census Bureau runs called STA Ventures.
STA Ventures, what's that?
It's this program where the Census Bureau works with innovators from outside the government. They actually have these challenges where they ask people to come up with ideas to solve geospatial problems.
So it's like a contest.
Yeah, kind of like a hackathon, but for the government.
Cool.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, at FedGeoDay, they were showcasing their latest one, the Address Geolocation Challenge.
Address Geolocation Challenge. What's that all about?
Basically, the Census Bureau needs to know the exact location of every single house in the U.S.
Wow.
so they can do their job properly.
Like sending out census takers and stuff.
Exactly. But it's harder than it sounds, especially in rural areas where they don't always have street addresses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this challenge is all about finding new and creative ways to figure out where all those houses are.
Like using GPS?
Yeah, but they're also looking at things like using drones, satellite imagery.
Really? Drones and satellites?
They even mention using data from e-commerce websites.
E-commerce? Wait, how would that work?
Well, think about it. Companies like Amazon have tons of data about where they deliver packages.
Yeah, that's true.
The Census Bureau thinks they can use that data to figure out where houses are, even in places where there aren't street addresses.
Wow, that's a really clever idea.
And that's one of the coolest things about FedGeoDay. It brings together all these people with different ideas and perspectives.
And that leads to innovation.
Exactly.
It's amazing that the government is willing to try these new things.
It is.
But even with all this talk about collaboration and new ideas, I'm guessing there's still some disagreements, right?
For sure.
Like what?
One of the big ones was about interoperability.
Interoperability, what does that mean?
It's basically making sure that all this data from different sources can work together.
Okay.
Like having a universal translator for data.
That sounds pretty important.
It is. If you don't have interoperability, you just end up with a bunch of data that can't talk to each other.
A beta Tower of Babel.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a huge challenge, especially when you've got data coming from different agencies, different companies, even different countries.
Everyone's speaking a different language?
That's a good way to put it. So the big question is, how do you get everyone to speak the same language?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, some people think the best way is to have everyone use the same data formats and definitions.
So everyone's on the same page?
Exactly. But other people think that's too rigid.
Too rigid? Why?
Well, technology changes so fast.
Okay. Yeah.
They think that trying to make everything fit into a predefined box could actually stifle innovation.
So you need some flexibility.
Exactly. They think we need to find ways to be more adaptable, to create systems that can handle all the different kinds of data out there.
I see. So it's all about finding the right balance.
It is. It's a tough problem, and there's no easy answer.
And this debate is happening outside of the government, too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a big topic in the whole geospatial community.
So we've talked about a lot of really complex stuff today. Open data, AI, collaboration, interoperability.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But how does all this actually affect everyday people?
Well, think about the AI stuff we were talking about. As AI gets better at analyzing geospatial data, it's going to be used to make more and more decisions that directly impact our lives.
Like what kind of decisions?
Things like urban planning, disaster response, environmental monitoring.
Okay.
These are all areas where geospatial data is already being used, and AI is going to make it even more powerful.
So AI could help us plan better cities, respond to natural disasters more effectively, and even understand climate change better.
Exactly. But remember what we talked about earlier, AI is just a tool.
Right. And it can be used for good or bad.
It all depends on who's using it and what their goals are.
So we need to be careful about how AI is being used.
We do. We need to understand how these tools work, what data they're using, and what biases might be built into them.
And we need to hold the people who are using them accountable.
Exactly.
It sounds like FedGeoDay is a good place to learn more about all of this stuff.
It is. It shows us that geospatial technology isn't just for experts anymore.
It's affecting all of our lives.
And it's going to become even more important in the future.
There was that quote about OpenStreetMap. We can't just be users and just use this OpenStreetMap and without investing in it. And we're using OpenStreetMap, and it's a very shaky foundation that we're not investing in it. And I urge the FGDC and everybody here is associated with policy and all of you to do something about that.
Yeah. We can't just sit back and let other people decide how this technology is going to be used.
We need to be part of the conversation.
Exactly.
It sounds like FedGeoDay 2024 was a huge success.
It really was. And you know what? FedGeoDay 2025 is already in the works.
Really?
Yeah. It's going to be on April 22nd, 2025.
Awesome. So we have a whole year to get ready for another deep dive. It sounds like something everyone should check out.
Definitely. And you know, one thing that really struck me was just how optimistic everyone was.
Even with all the challenges.
Yeah. Everyone at FedGeoDay was just so positive about the future.
Well, they say information is power.
That's right.
And when you give people access to open data and all this amazing technology, it really feels like anything is possible.
I know. But here's something to think about.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've been talking about all the good things about open geospatial ecosystems, but we've also talked about some of the risks.
Like data security and privacy.
Exactly. So how do we find that balance?
Between openness and security.
Right. It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer.
It's definitely something we need to keep in mind as the world becomes more and more connected.
We do. Geospatial data is super valuable, and we have to protect it.
It's not just about technology either, right?
Right. It's about creating a culture of responsibility.
Making sure that everyone understands how important data security is.
And that everyone's using this technology ethically.
It's a challenge, but it's one we have to face head on.
If we want open geospatial ecosystems to succeed, we have to get this right.
Well said. Thanks for taking me on this deep dive. I feel like I've learned a lot.
My pleasure.
FedGeoDay 2025 is definitely on my calendar.
Awesome. And for everyone listening out there, stay curious and keep exploring the world of geospatial technology.
And be sure to check out the show notes for more information about FedGeoDay. Happy exploring.